Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K Now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next couple of hours. Along with Nick.
Top of the morning.
Top of the morning to you. And Gal is here.
Hello, hello.
Good morning. And Spence is out of town.
Unbelievable.
Oh, our number is 919-518-9773. Computers 2K Voice on Skype. Today's show is made possible by vMix Software and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. Yeah. Okay, we'll talk about that later, but I came across this. First of all, is this something anybody wants to talk about to begin with? Guys?
I'm thinking nothing particular.
Okay.
I won a radio yesterday.
You won a radio?
Yeah. We had there was a ham, our local ham radio group met, and we had our yearly cookout, and there was a little drawing for a Kenwood THG17 handheld radio, and I was the closest number to guess, so I won it.
Congratulations! Very nice. Is it a 7 meter or a 6 meter?
It's a dual band UHF VHF radio. I haven't. It's about 10 years old, so it's not new. And it's used, but it's I believe it was a pretty expensive radio when it first came out. I don't know what it cost when it originally came out, but I would say it was at least a few $100s.
All right.
Yeah. Get your ham license. Haven't said that in a while.
Yeah, I know. You said it quite a few times. So I saw this article and I'm saying, really? Music streaming giant Spotify has revealed that it's intending to make a big splash in the audiobooks business. At the company's Investor Day 2022, CEO Daniel Ek revealed that the company would be branching out into audiobooks following its successful music and podcast offering.
This makes perfect sense. This goes back to exactly the problem with Spotify, is that their business model, everything that they offered was them having to pay out everything. They had nothing that did not cost Spotify money. Podcasting changed that. Now, obviously they did have to shell out $100 million for Joe Rogan, but they're not paying per play like they are with everything else. And it's going to be the same thing with audiobooks. They'll strike license deals with, if they're smart, and if Audible is smart, they'll strike some sort of deal with Audible to do some sort of crossover. They'll pay a license fee for the audiobook, and it can be streamed as many times as you want. The question is, Gal, when is Spotify they're gonna have to up their subscription price? It's been $10 a month, $9.99 for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, I don't think I mean, I think they can't because of the competition, right? So yes, they've said it at $10 a month. Changing that means losing subscribers. I don't know if they can afford that at this point.
Mm.
So yeah, it will be interesting. I mean, even niche. It's like they've set the standard for all of services, right?
Oh yeah,
Google Music costs the same. You can you can top it up, right, with YouTube Premium for like $1.50, right, for a bit more. But it's the only service that costs less than Spotify at this point is Pandora, with their lower tier, the one that you cannot choose specific songs, just go away with the ads. Yeah. So, and
what
the niche
about
ones,
Amazon?
Deezer and all that, they're all the same, right? So,
how much is Amazon?
It depends whether you're buying it without Prime or you're bundling it within Prime.
So if you already have Prime, how much is Amazon to get the full music?
I think another $3.
Yep. So that's pretty competitive, since you're already paying for Prime, right?
Yeah. But and with Prime, you get a very, very, very limited access, right?
Yeah.
The one that's
And it's getting less and less of an access.
Yeah. Well, it hasn't been really I mean, I don't know of really many people that have jumped on board. The only way a service like that works is if you have mass volume, and Amazon doesn't have that, obviously.
Right.
Well,
I will say, because of their own doing, their service, the app has always been terrible. It shows music that's not available to you, and it's never been great.
Right. It goes on to say that several months ago, Spotify announced its agreement to acquire audiobooks distribution platform Findaway, which was a surefire indicator that it was thinking big in this area. While that deal has yet to close, Eck has confirmed that he sees audiobooks as a massive opportunity. It's interesting. It'll be interesting, to say the least, to see if it makes it. I mean,
it will.
They've
had great success with their podcasting platform.
They do?
Absolutely.
I don't use it, so I have no idea.
Absolutely. They have now, obviously, if you are like myself, I don't use it because I've already got my whole workflow for podcasts. But I think it's important to note, and I deal with this a lot with the radio show, is you've got people that predominantly older people. That's the circle that I'm revolving in when I'm dealing with political stuff for the most part. They don't listen to podcasts. They never have.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say, well, what do you listen to music on? They say Spotify. It's a very easy, oh, okay. I just use the same app that I'm already using to listen to music to listen to your podcast. So I think in that aspect, they've done a lot of good. I'm not going to use it unless I'm listening to Joe Rogan, which I do. I keep everything else is still on the app I've used for years.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I've stopped using them mainly because they push podcasting so much. I have my own app for podcasting. I went with YouTube Music for music. This way, I got these two separate worlds. If they go ahead and they create separate apps for this, maybe I'll be interested in going back, because their service is good. It's just right now opening it, it's like they are pushing their native offering, which are the podcasts at this point, too much.
How? Where are you seeing? Did you not have Spotify Premium?
I had. While I had Spotify Premium, the front page would always recommend podcasts. I don't want any podcast in my music experience at all. I don't want that at all. If they would have allowed me a different screen, right, to choose, or like a completely separated section of the app, I might have been interested. But at that point, it's like, I didn't want any podcasts in my music experience. And every time I open my web app, my music app, I got that crap that I didn't want. And so I got annoyed by it.
Well,
that's when I started looking for other solutions, and YouTube was perfect, because I even pay a few bucks extra, right? And I get that YouTube premium experience. And so they help me silo out the music with the YouTube music, and I get the video stuff without the ads. Works best.
Okay. All right. We talked a lot about passwords and all that. So now the article goes, LastPass says they are now the first password manager with a passwordless sign-in feature. This is coming from Engadget. Grant permission through the LastPass Authenticator mobile app, and you can update account info on the web without entering your master password. The approach relies on FIDO-compliant, password-free technology. The feature is available to both personal and business users. LastPass is also promising options beyond the Authenticator app in the future, such as relying on biometric scans or hardware security.
That is going to be interesting. So whenever I hear something about LastPass, right, the only thing I'm waiting for is for Bitwarden to implement it.
To copy it and do it,
yeah. Because, I mean, once it's a widespread concept and it works well, there's no reason for open source not to implement it. So I'm all for it. I already use Bitwarden with a security key. So I have my one-time password, the temporary one-time password already running on my cell phone, right? So I can enter the code if I log in. But to make things simpler, I also have a physical key where all I need is just touch. So it's a step forward. I'm all for it.
So wait, hold on. Do you not use a master password?
You always need the master password for the first time. Okay. And that will be the same with LastPass as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right.
Big fan of Bitwarden.
We'll wait and see. Here's some kind of disturbing news without me knowing the details about it. At Roku, a video streaming platform operator that suffered a punishing stock plunge, employees are buzzing about the possibility of an acquisition, and their talk and hopes are pinned on Netflix. Employees at Roku have been discussing the possibility of a Netflix acquisition in recent weeks, according to people familiar with the matter. The chatter comes as Roku's stock has dropped about 80% since late July on weaker demand for video streaming and lower set-top box sales. So, I mean, yeah, I can see them selling less set-top boxes, but it seems like they're selling more TVs with it. So
I bet you they struck a bad deal with the TVs, and that's their problem.
Oh,
because these TVs are so dirt cheap.
Yeah,
like I've got one coming up in specials today. They probably did not strike a very good deal for that. Which is just my guess. But here's the thing. I would say, and I would gamble to say that Roku is probably the most popular set-top box.
Right.
I think that's an accurate assessment. If not the top, very close to the top. How often are people buying these things? How often do you buy a new TV? 5, 8 years? And, unless something happens and it burns out or lightning strike damages it. How often are you buying a new TV? So, of course, sales are going to dwindle. But to me, this is because Roku has not. We know, we've seen it in plenty of other spheres. The physical hardware device is not where you make your money. You can't do it. You need to have a SaaS. You need to have a subscription service. And Roku doesn't have that. That's their problem. They have no way. You go out and you buy, and I've got a Roku box in the specials today as well. You go out and spend $70 on this Roku and use it for the next 8 years. That's a huge problem.
Right. And you get a bunch of free streaming videos if you don't want to go out of the sphere.
Yeah, and Alan says I still have a Roku 3. Yeah, I still use a Roku 3 in my office. That thing's got to be getting on 10 years old.
Oh.
So you see something very similar in the video game sphere right now too, with the Xboxes and the PlayStations, where those have always been devices in which there has not been a high margin of profit because it costs so much to produce. You can't sell them. For example, the Xbox 360 was actually sold at a loss by Microsoft. They were losing money on each console they sold, but they had their Xbox Gold subscription service at $10 a month. They got a portion of every game that was sold on the console. That's how they were able to boost up their profits. Roku doesn't have any of that. I don't believe Roku has a subscription service you can pay for. Everything's free through Roku TV. They should charge for that, or should have.
Well, there are paid services. The real question is, do they get anything from the service providers?
No, because they don't have the payment, unlike Apple or Google Play, they're not handling the payment.
Well, they don't need to handle the payment. Think about this. Netflix, right? I'm talking theoretically here, but Netflix has an app in their. Is there some sort of deal behind the scenes to put it there? That's the real question, right? Or is it a free marketplace? That's what I don't know.
It's a free marketplace. I developed apps. It was free. You just created a developer account and put an app on there. Now, there might be, because I know the remotes have buttons on them for services. Yeah. So there's definitely some payment there. But again, we're talking about one-time payments for an ongoing service. And that is a huge problem. It's not sustainable.
Once growth stops, then that's it.
Yeah. And inevitably growth does stop when you have a device that is not something that people are constantly replacing. And there's no reason to constantly replace them. My Roku 3 works like a champ. It's a little slow, but it's great. It works perfect for everything I need to do with
it. Talking about Roku, what'd you do about your remote?
I've still just been using the phone.
So you didn't open it and look for anything?
I tried to open it and I started watching some videos. It is not as easy to open as I thought. Now, obviously, it's already broken, so there's not really anything to lose, but I'm not convinced I'll get it back together. So I'll end up looking at it eventually. I just haven't felt like. I mean, you literally just you almost crack the plastic on it for it to open up. It's not meant to be serviced, which it's a remote. I mean,
still,
that makes sense. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, the Roku phone app is freaking awesome.
Well,
I mean, it's not my ideal solution, but it is the reason I haven't jumped to buy a new remote yet, which is inevitably what I'm going to do. Actually, I'll probably just buy a new Roku, honestly. The reason I haven't done that yet is because the phone app works so well. It's a little bit inconvenient, but not enough for me to go out and spend $30 on a remote.
okay. I use the phone. Be like that.
Yeah, for the time being, yeah.
Yep. A new security feature in Apple's upcoming Mac OS 13 Ventura will automatically block new USB-C devices from communicating with the operating system until the accessory can be approved by the user. I guess that's the same as I don't know what they call it for Windows when it asks, do you want to allow it? Do you want to let such and such change or the user?
Yeah, but
something?
Windows doesn't do anything for USB.
No, I
More like
understand.
it's more like a Bluetooth pairing concept.
Mhm.
What's described here? You plug it in, you get a question as
Yeah.
do you trust this device?
Right.
You answer yes. It actually mimics it already exists in Android, right? Anything you plug into Android doesn't work until you approve it. You install an app, it doesn't work until, right? Stuff like that. I think that's the concept here, which goes ties in with the whole concept of security, modern security, right? Which zero trust. Don't trust anything until full trust is established. So, but once you trust something, is the trust can be reestablished. The reason is things are signed. I doubt with USB. So here's the thing: you plug a USB mouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've approved it once. There is nothing in that exchange that creates an encryption pair. So whatever Apple is doing feels to me right now it's for show only. It's only by the identifiers that exist. Those identifiers by a hacker, they can actually be changed. So I'm thinking this is more a psychological remedy more than an actual solution. It's more to give people a false sense of security. It's another step, another hurdle for a hacker, but it's not impossible for anyone to bypass. Still, let's have it. Let's see how annoying it's gonna be, and then people will decide.
I guess that's why they doing it like that.
Could be. It's
It goes on to say that Apple dropped details of the new security features in its release notes, which appears to be aimed at protecting newer Apple laptops that run its bespoke M1 or M2 chips from potentially malicious accessories. Apple says this doesn't apply to power adapters, standalone displays, and connections to an approved hub. And devices can still charge even if they don't approve the accessory. Apple says that accessories that are already connected will automatically work when updating to the new Mac OS software.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're
It
trying to.
feels like more Apple control than anything else, basically. Because they will upgrade that feature sometime in the future so that you'll get a different prompt for approved hardware versus non-approved hardware. And then they'll sell the secure version of the OS, which will be cheaper, but will allow only approved Apple hardware. You see where this is going?
Well,
This is Apple. This feels like 100% Apple. A lot of show, usually just for their own bling, right? It's like, oh, yeah, well,
well. We're talking about the M1 and M2. Um, the next article goes, researchers at MIT have discovered an unfixable vulnerability in Apple silicon that could allow attackers to bypass a chip's last line of defense. This is coming from Apple's insider blog. But most Mac users shouldn't be worried. More specifically, the team at the MIT Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory found that Apple implementation of pointer authentication in the M1 system on chip can be overcome with a specific hardware attack they dubbed Pac-Man. Pointer authentication is a security mechanism in Apple silicon that makes it more difficult for attackers to modify pointers in memory. By checking for unexpected changes in pointers, the mechanism can help defend a CPU if attackers gain memory access. The flow comes into play when an attacker successfully guesses the value of a pointer authentication code and disables it. The title of the article was saying, here it is all over, Spectre, but on the Apple side.
it doesn't feel. I mean, it's probably, it's obviously something that needs to be resolved. Doesn't feel like a big deal.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, first of all, no surprise, right? This is an architecture that the hackers had a lot less time
Right.
exploring compared to Intel and AMD based systems. There'll be vulnerabilities rolling and coming out, but still, it sounds like such a minor thing. You need to bypass everything that has to do with, first of all, you need direct access to the machine. Second of all, within direct access, you'll need to bypass a lot of OS protections. As they said, it's the last line of defense. To get to that point,
Right.
is terribly hard. So even with social engineering, right? Even with getting full access by somebody with privileged access. So it's ouch, not a big deal. I don't think we'll see. I don't think this hack will ever get to be part of a big plot anywhere.
We'll have to wait
More
and
of an
see.
inconvenience.
Yeah. I mean, I still don't know anybody that, or even read a story about anybody that got hurt from the Intel Spectre, or what was the other one? There were two of them together.
I don't remember, but
yeah,
most of these you won't.
It's almost like you have to have hands on that machine in order to do something.
Yeah, most of the time. the most common exploits that are being used, right, are those are more importantly in the OS level, getting permissions within the OS. Then you can wreak havoc on a complete network, not just one machine.
Right.
And this isn't the method to gain that. So
it's another vulnerability in the structure, the infrastructure of a Mac. So,
right, it's more of an academic vulnerability here, but
yeah. At this point, it hasn't. Maybe now it'll start getting exploited. Who knows?
I wonder how long the popularity of the M1, M2 right now, right, there is extreme interest because the way it's doing things differently, right, it has efficiencies that are lacking from a Ryzen processor or an Intel iCore processor. So, and this takes me back to when Apple bet on the PowerPC.
On the what?
On the PowerPC.
Oh,
when they went with IBM with chips instead of Intel, and for a small while, right, there was this race where Apple was leading with this bleeding edge new technology, but then they fell behind because, well, they're still competing with other chip manufacturers who are going to make theirs stronger and better. So I wonder how long the dominance of interest will be around the M1 and M2s. It'll be interesting. Right now, it's a headache for everyone because a lot of software to work properly needs to be modified. Stuff that you cannot generalize per processor, right? You need some per processor code specifics. So I wonder how long this race will take. Been a while. They're leading right now with interest, right? But it'll be interesting following this, talking about this in 5 to 10 years. Remember, PowerPC became a bust, right? So,
instant messaging app Telegram, which is used by over 500 million active users, said on Friday it's working on a premium tier, but plans to keep many of the current features available to existing users. In a post, Telegram Pavel Durov wrote, "Since the day Telegram was launched almost 9 years ago, we've been giving our users more features and resources than any other messaging app. A free app as powerful as Telegram was revolutionary in 2013 and is still unprecedented in 2022. To this day, our limits on chats, media, and file uploads are unrivaled. And yet, many have been asking us to raise the current limits even further. So we look into ways to let you go beyond what is already crazy. The problem here is that if we were to remove all limits for everyone, our server and traffic costs would have become unmanageable. So the party would be unfortunately over for everyone." And it's amazing how many of these services actually are spending on bandwidth when things like that happen.
yeah,
When they give the user more bandwidth, more storage, storage doesn't cost unless the company is using a third party. But transferring it's costing them a fortune. So I guess until now they survived on investments from whoever that thought that maybe it's going to pay off someday. But now if they do that, I'm sure a lot of people will go for it because, and I don't know, I don't use Telegram, so I don't know what kind of limits they have. And whenever I read about users want more, more bandwidth, raise the limits, you know that it's always, it's room for abuse, and it's probably used for abuse, unless I don't know. Not
Limits they're talking about are mainly um, how long of a history can be kept, right? How many messages historically can be kept per channel? How many users can join a specific group? I think right now it's around 10,000 in Telegram, right? Stuff like that. So
I don't know.
So no, I'm saying
Oh,
those are the types of limits that that differ when you look at different chat solutions, different group chat solutions. So the limits they're talking about of lifting, I mean, it'll be interesting. Who are the groups requesting that will benefit from these lifted limits?
That's what I'm thinking.
As long as they keep whatever is existing right now free, I don't think they're gonna piss anyone off. They had, I think they added some sort of ad support for very large communities. So if they did, then this will allow them to remove that. Um,
No?
I think it's okay for them to try and figure out a way to keep everything sustainable. My main problem with Telegram is Telegram uh, um, presents itself as a not-for-profit organization, but they're not open about it. They're a private company, so that's the only thing, is how do they actually make the decisions? That's kept inside. Whatever they do is interesting because it affects a very large community of users on the web. This actually ties into another topic, though. These networks, right? In the past, we would have called it social networking, and today, these instant message solutions, they're not exactly, everything's a social network today, right? Everything's
Platforms.
interconnected. Everything's an interconnected set of network of people, right? Every such any social interaction online basically is sort of a social network, and it all boils down to who's on your contact list, right? For these apps, WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram, even Messenger, although it's tied to your Facebook persona. If you just look at Messenger as the part where there's no wall, there's no news feed, right? The just the part where you're one-on-one with people. You tend to use these systems based on where your group of your peers are, right? And on the other side of it are the public facing of these, the Twitters, the Facebook wall with its news feed, Reddit, right? Those are more close to old school forums than anything else. The social networks, the ones where the people interconnect based on bidirectional connections, where you go to a group chat because somebody you know pulled you in and stuff like that. There's a very strange ecosystem around all of these. And Telegram is trying to find a way of basically asserting their dominance, right, of being the platform people go. Discord is trying on their end. Google, every once in a while, they spin the new project that tries to kill the older project to do that. And I think the common problem for all of these is, if I'm already invested in one network, in one social, my personal social network, in one system, nothing will probably make me move to another system unless I can get my friends there also. So I've been trying out an app that is exactly trying to address that. I've also shared it with Nick. And it has a very interesting solution, although I'm unclear about their financial plan, because it seems their financial plan is going to be subscription based. So I'm not so sure who is the audience who's going to use it. The app is called Beeper, beeper.com. Right now it's in it's like in an open beta, I think. Maybe not beta, maybe it's still official, but you need an invite in order to activate it. And what it does is it ties all of these chats together. You might have remembered there was an old school chat solution named Trillion. So it has reminiscence of that. It's or Pigeon in Linux. It's in a way it has some semblance, but the difference is it's not self-contained within the app. It's not like as if the app itself is the one doing the connections to all of those networks, but you get a hosted solution. Right now it's their hosted solution. I don't think it'll ever be self-hosted, although I wish it would. You get a hosted solution where everything is interconnected. All of the services you are a member on, you connect to, but it's encrypted. So it's encrypted with the keys that only your clients will have. So they're preserving your privacy while allowing you to use their infrastructure in order to consolidate all of that. So basically, you get an app that gives you a single stream and a single bunch of all of your contact lists, right, into one application that you can run on your desktop, you can run on your tablet, you can run on your phone, and you get this consolidated view of all of your interactions, your one-to-one or even group interactions where you are a participant. So Alan is writing, a lot of people hated Trillion. And yes, I would agree, because Trillion was a very flawed solution. It really depends on the client version, because if something changed on the service that you were connecting to, if you didn't have an updated client, then you wouldn't be able to connect. So you were always chasing these versioning things. With a hosted solution run by a system, by some service, it's on them to solve that, and it's on them to solve that fast. But you have some sort of backing. So yeah, so the thing is, this is going to be a subscription cost, right? And right now they're talking about $10 a month, which seems really, really high for chat, especially if especially if the alternatives, right, is I can use all of this for free with a bunch of other apps, right? But
and there is already a sort of solution to this it's been out for years, and it's not anywhere near as in depth as this. So let me set that forward. But have you ever heard of Rambox?
Yeah. I use. I think I recommended Rambox to you back in the day. I don't use Rambox anymore. I use Ferdy, as in Ferdinand Ferdy.
Mm-hmm.
Rambox became very, very profit-based environment, and their open source fell behind. Ferdy is competing with another one called France, if I remember correct. And both of these, they provide an open source way, but they're browser based.
So that's it. It only works with services that have a web app that it essentially creates it's a single instance of that inside of the program. But it does a lot of what Beeper does, and just it's not as uniform, but it is.
Exactly. It covers some of the same needs, but the difference is Ferdy, Rambox, all of these, they are desktop specific. They are specific for the environment you're running. While Beeper is a hosted solution that you theoretically in the future you will be able to also access it as a web service. That's I'm guessing here, but that seems like a natural progression. But you can right now hook it up using your mobile device, right? Or your tablet, or any of your PCs, and you get the same exact experience because you're getting a native app. One more thing is the same services connected through Beeper compared to the services connected through Ferdy, which is a web-based solution. The resources are 6 times as high from the Beeper solution. The Beeper solution just needs very low resources compared to that because everything is handled by the services for the interconnection, and all it needs is just a good display. But it's a very, very simplistic one. You get the same exact interface for all of your sources. So definitely, I would recommend at this point put yourself up for an invitation on the wait list. If you ever get access, then would love to hear your experience there. I got the invite as I know somebody that works for them, and I'm trying to get somebody from them on the show because I think they have an interesting service here, and I think it'll be very interesting to explore, a future of something like this. I don't know if any of here remembers the Palm Pre,
yes,
which was the deathbed of Palm, with Android and I think it was even before Android actually became viable. It was still in open source development, or it was in really initial distribution steps. Palm came out with the Palm Pre and their WebOS. And one of the things Palm Pre was presenting was exactly this, an integrated chat system where the chat backend that you choose, it doesn't matter what it is just that. It's just a backend where your conversation with the person. It doesn't matter on which channel you're doing it, whether it's on text, SMS, or on a chat system in Facebook, or on their own chat system. It would just be a protocol at the back end, and it'll treat it that way. And this is what they're trying to do here. And I think they are succeeding on the technology wise. I just very interesting on the business side. How is this going to be sustainable?
Subscription.
Yes, but so here's the big issue. They're using a fantastic technology in the back end. It's called Matrix. Matrix has been around for a while, which it does exactly that. It's an inter-protocol solution for chat. It can be its own chat protocol, but it can also hook up to different systems. One of the main use of Matrix today are interconnection between systems. Like, let's say you have a Slack community, but you also want to be available in Discord. You interconnect Slack and Discord using some sort of Matrix server that does the routing between them. And there are components that allow you to, on the one hand, hook up your server to Discord, and on the other hand, hook up your server to Slack. And then you can
the old days of doing IRC relay bots and things of that nature to have your multiple channels and all that stuff in one place.
Exactly. And so you want to do IRC? Fine, do IRC. You're still connected to all of the people that are connected to Discord. You're still connected to all of the people who are connected to Slack, which makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, it doesn't matter which mail client I use. I can send email to anyone regardless of their mail system that they use, because there's an interconnecting protocol that deals with the conversation itself. Mm-hmm. So this is the approach they're taking. This is the first time that there is a commercial attempt at this, because Matrix is an open source solution, is an open source project. It's driven by community. And they're using Matrix, which is great, because it also means that should they fail in the long run, one of the things that might come out of it are self-hosted solution like this. Now, they're complex to set up, and this is the value they're bringing. In a way, I really wish that this company takes Bitwarden's beat on this, and they make everything open source, everything self-hosted, and an enthusiast like myself, that I'll be able to create my own server and host it for my family. But I will have the option of, instead of hosting it, to pay a subscription and get everything dealt with the company. They'll deal with the updates. They'll deal with the deployment, right? All I need is just a safe way to connect, and they'll provide that. Home Assistant, that's another one that works in that same paradigm. So Home Assistant and Bitwarden, I really wish Beeper will take their route eventually. But until they start actually having paying customers, it'll be interesting to see where this goes. For now, I can say I really like their client. I use it on the phone and I use it on the desktop. I actually muted notifications from the default apps on the mobile to see how it functions as a main chat app on the mobile. The funny things on a mobile, they must coexist, because some of these apps are dependent on being run on the phone with the number associated with it. But it's definitely one of the things I can do is I can run the same exact stream of chat. I don't need to re-log in a new device, and I can have two devices which will have an exact copy of one another, because they're hooked up to their Matrix system instead of to mine, instead of the one on the phone, and I can get two exactly the same copy. So it's like working with a desktop and stuff. So sign up for an invite, and if you ever get an invite approved, let us know.
I'm having one little problem with it, and I just opened up a support ticket with it. And funny enough, they had just responded, so now I got to look into.
Yeah. Their support is quick. They're good guys. I mean,
I literally submitted
service.
the message request at 9:56, and at 10:07, I just got a message back from one of their support reps with how I need to do this.
And we're on a Sunday. So
yeah, we are.
Very nice.
Yeah, my contact. I have all my contacts are on. I use Gmail for my contacts. And for iMessage Cloud, you have to import them into iMessage. So they've got a full support site on how to do this already. So pretty remarkable.
Yeah, so that's what's interesting about this company, right? They're targeting chat, which is somebody we all do for free, right? We all have access for free on all of these systems. And they're providing a convenience for at least for a future fee. I just wonder what that fee would be. It's I know they're targeting $10 a month.
It's got to be
I don't know.
$5.
I think it needs to be $10 or $12 a year, not a month.
I wouldn't mind spending
even
$5
$30
a month on it.
It's still, I think it's still high to make it sustainable, to make it.
Oh, it's a little high, but I think you get into, all right, what do I need? What am I really looking for? And it's similar to a whole bunch of other stuff. Is does $5 a month change your? Does $5 a month change your budget? Change any of that stuff? For most people, no. You get into the $10 or $12 range a month, like you're describing, and I know you said year, but $10 or $12 a month. Now you start guessing, do I really need something like this? I think at $5 a month, there's more of an appetite to sign up for it, just kind of almost for the hell of it.
$4.99.
Yeah, I think when you get to that $10 range, because now you're rivaling services like Spotify, which are $10 a month. And now you start doing that comparison. What am I getting? Am I getting my same? And obviously, you can't compare Spotify to everything else.
Right.
But am I getting that same level of? Am I getting the same use case for that I am for this? And I think that's where you start drawing that comparison.
All right. Okay. So, Nick, are you ready to do specials?
I am.
All right. There we go.
All right. So here's some specials for today. And as we can see in this picture, SSL errors, which is probably dealing with something with DNS in all likelihood, striking you everywhere, including your car radio, reporting that there's an SSL error that has occurred and a secure connection to the server cannot be made. So we've gone from AM and FM radio to SSL errors in your car. So that's a little bit of CarPlay for you, a little bit of CarPlay for you here this morning. All right, let's get into it. We got 3 different laptops on this at 3 different tiers. So let's start off with the first one. This is a nice laptop over, and this is actually on the Lenovo website. Legion is one of their gaming brands, and I've got this link directly to Slick Deals because there's a promo code for it. But you can get this over at Lenovo's website for $855. It's a very nice computer here, 15-inch gaming laptop. It's got a 6th gen AMD processor, an RTX 3060. It's also got 8 gigabytes of RAM and a 512 gigabyte SSD. You'll find that over at Lenovo's website for $855 with the promo code from Slick Deals. This thing's normally $1,400. So if you're looking for a powerful computer, not going to have the best battery life, obviously, but if you're looking for something that can do some video editing, some gaming on the go, all of that stuff, this is a really good price for a pretty high-powered gaming computer over at Lenovo's website. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Roku, one of their streaming devices. This is the Ultra 2022, which I think I'm going to end up going and buying because the remotes are like $40 to replace. You can get this. This is the 2022 version that comes with the remote with rechargeable battery now. So they've gone away from in their new remotes. No longer are they taking AA batteries. They've got a micro USB port that you use to charge them. Or a mini USB, I guess I should. No, micro USB. Excuse me. You'll find this over at Target for $70. They're normally $100. Save $30 on that. And these are in store and shipped as well, so you can order it online and just go pick it up inside of the store. I mentioned 3 different laptops on here, 3 different tiers. We talked about the high-end gaming laptop for nearly $900. This seems almost unbelievable, but it is not. Here's an Asus 11.6-inch laptop. It's got a Celeron N4020, 64 gigabytes of eMMC memory, and 4 gigabytes of system RAM. It's $109. Now, it does come with Windows 11, which by itself is nearly $100. Obviously, OEMs are not paying that. This is I have something similar to this. It's a little bit, I don't remember what it is. Maybe it is an Asus. I'll go grab it after specials is over with. I've got something very similar to this that I just towed around in my backpack. It's got great battery life. It keeps a great charge. It's not strong. It's not powerful. You have more than probably a dozen tabs open. The thing's crawls to non-existence, but it's all about managing expectations. This is a great laptop to carry around with you. It's $100. If you smash it with a brick, I don't think your life's not going to be over. These things are great just for doing things like that are maybe a little bit more complex, like writing a longer email on your phone that can sometimes be a royal pain. To pull this thing out, it's perfect for doing stuff like that. You'll find that over at Walmart. Normally $230. It's on sale for $109, but the deal does end in 14 hours. So if you're watching this, you got until pretty much the end of the day today to decide if you want to pull the trigger on that. But that's over at Walmart. And then we've got the mid-tier laptop here. So we had the $900 one, the $100 one. Here's the $460 one. Now this is an Acer. This has got a little bit more power, that middle tier computer for this. It's an Acer Aspire 3. It's got a 15.6-inch screen, a Core i5 12th Gen 1235U, 8 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, a 256 gigabyte NVMe SSD, and it's got Windows 11 Home on it. So this is a little bit more of your, all right, I need to get some stuff done on this. I can't have it bogging down every time I try to open up a web page. So you can check that out over at Walmart. Normally $549 on sale for $459. Save about $100 or so on that. All right, moving down to page 2, we were talking about Roku TVs and how cheap these things are. Here's a TCL, which a TCL is who's TCL? Is it LG's?
No.
Sharp. It's one of those brands, kind of cheaper televisions. So again, manage your expectations. But this is a 65-inch 4K UHD HDR smart Roku TV for $429. $429. You don't need to buy a separate Roku, a separate streaming device. It's all included. It's got the Roku remote. It's got a coax input for doing your coax TV if you hook an antenna up to it. It's got 4 HDMI ports, including one that's ARC that'll do the audio. which is really cool for that. It's got a headphone output, optical audio. It also has an AV adapter, so you can hook up a standard definition device as well, and an Ethernet jack, since you'll be probably using this as your smart TV. Save $370. This thing's normally $800 over at Best Buy. Really, really good price for a TCL smart TV with the Roku built in. Moving on now to, I caught this on Slick Deals earlier in the week, and it's available at a couple of different places for this price. In this case, I linked it over to Home Depot. This is the Wyze, which they make, they're a very popular maker of security cameras. This is the Wyze Outdoor Wi-Fi Floodlight Home Security Camera. So not only is it a camera, but it also has, as you can see, two pretty strong floodlights with this. It's a 1080p camera on it, and it's also got a siren and a speaker that you can do with that as well, so it can make a noise. It's IP65 water resistant, and you can get all of that hooked up. It is again wireless, so you don't have to wire this in for that, but it does need power, so you will have to wire it into some sort of power source for that. You'll check that out over at Home Depot's, where it is here. It's at other retailers too. $79.98. It's normally $100 for that.
Nick, did you read about it? What does it have to do with Apple TV?
What?
It says underneath it. It says
no. That's the next. That's the next thing.
Oh.
Scroll down.
Oh, okay.
Yes, scroll down. So, all right, I'm not stealing my thunder on that. Let's talk about the Apple TV. Maybe if you're more of the Apple persuasion, not sold on a Roku or an Amazon Fire TV. Here is the second generation Apple TV 4K. They've got two different models here. They've got a 32 gig and a 64 gig model. The 32 gig is over at Best Buy for $129. The 64 gigabyte is $149. You'll save $50 on both of those over at Best Buy. You can buy them online or in store. Next up, we've got a significant external hard drive. 10 terabyte Seagate expansion drive. You would expect to spend $300 or $400 on something like this. You can get it for $160 over at Newegg. There is a promo code. So in the specials PDF, I've linked to the sweet deals, the Slick Deals link for this. This is normally a $300 drive, and you can get it for $160 over at Newegg. A really good price on that. Seagate makes very good external hard drives, so no concerns there. Maybe you're looking to speed up your laptop or your older desktop. Here is a 2 terabyte PCIe Gen 4x4 NVMe M.2 drive. This is a PCIe Gen 4, so this thing will do the highest speed of any of these drives that you can put in your computer, being Gen 4. 2 terabyte PCIe NVMe. You get it over at Amazon or B&H Photo for $179.99. There's a link to the Slick Deals, or the Slick Deals link for that as well. And finally, rounding us out here today, these things have been really popping up all over the place. They're calling them battery stations or power stations. A whole bunch of companies are making these, and this was one that I saw a decent price on. I haven't used it. I don't know anything about it. It's got great reviews, and it's over at Home Depot as part of their Father's Day sale. This thing is a 1,200 watt peak. So you could peak 1,200 watts out of this, which means you're not running a refrigerator on it or anything like that. But you can power up plenty of things on this with that 1,200 watt peak. You can run a coffee maker, an electric, some sort of electric stove top, even something like a blender. If you're maybe in an RV or you have a mini fridge, you could definitely run this as well on it. Obviously, it'll charge all of your devices. It's got a couple of different ports on it. It's got 3 regular 120 volt wall warts. It's also got 2 USB type A ports, a fast charging, as well as a USB-C. and then you can also plug in a car cigarette lighter jack to it as well and use that. And then it's got a couple of different ways to charge it. You can hook it up to a solar panel. You can charge it from a regular 120 volt outlet. There's a couple of other ways to charge it as well. These are becoming more and more the norm, and the prices keep going down and down. It'll go from 0 to 80% in 1 hour, full recharge in just over an hour and a half. 600 watt rated AC output. With this, it weighs 11 pounds. It's normally $350. It's on sale for $249 over at Home Depot as part of their Father Day sale. You have until next Sunday if you want to pick this up over at Home Depot. And that is specials.
Very, very nice, Nick. Thank you.
Yeah, some interesting stuff. I'm gonna eventually pick up one of those power stations or whatever the hell they're calling them. They've been out for a while now. Anchor makes a bunch of them. There's a bunch of companies that make them. I just haven't found a use case to justify.
All right. That is, I mean, I wonder how long it's going to keep a good sized device on.
Well, it depends on what you're doing. Like, for example, if you're trying to charge a computer, it'll charge it probably 5, 6, 7 times. When you get into when you're really draining this thing quickly is when you're running things. And a lot of people that are using these are people that are camping, because you can fire up your electric coffee maker and make a couple of cups of coffee and do it that way, or operate I'm trying to think what else you do. Blenders, just some stuff like that. And obviously, a lot of folks have power inverters in their car. Either newer cars come with the 120 volt outlet built in. If not, you can get cheap USB cigarette lighter ones from Walmart or anywhere else. But that's kind of a pain in the ass. And you have to have your car with you, and you got to start the car and keep it over there. These are becoming very popular for things like that. I have a generator, so that's why I haven't jumped on one of these. Because there's not many situations. You know, if I'm home and there's a hurricane, which we are in hurricane season, this isn't going to solve me. So I don't do enough stuff where I'm out and about where I would need this kind of power. So, but a lot of people are buying them. They seem to be pretty cool.
Obviously.
Yeah. Do your research though. Heavily do your. There's a gazillion YouTube videos on these things. If you find one you like, even this one, look it up on YouTube. Find the pros and the cons. People are reviewing these things like mad right now.
Okay. All right. So last week I got a notice from AT&T. That my bill is going up $14 because the promotion is over. So first thing I did is log into my account and cancel the auto pay. Then I called them and I said, I just got this and I have a problem with that, because when I subscribed to your service a year ago, I was told it's going to stay like that. I said, you are going to charge me $60 for 500 by 500 when I'm paying also $70 for a gig up and down from Google Fiber. He said, oh, you have Google Fiber? I said, yeah. I'm using you as a backup. So he said, well, our service, normally this service is $85. So we'll give it to you for $55. I said, no. You'll drop it, and I was going to call and say that you need to drop it a little bit farther because I'm just using it as a backup. So he said, hold on a second, and he went, and I don't know who he talked with, and about a few minutes later he came back. He said, you're going to need to call on the 15th when that's when your anniversary is, so to speak, when it renews, and we'll give you another promotion. I said, well, I'm not going to pay the $60. I'm waiting to pay whatever price we agreed to on the 15th. He said, yeah, that's okay. I said, why you guys are doing it like this? Look at it. Here's Google, one of your serious competitors. And they stay at $70 for a gig, and they stay at $70. And they tell you that they're going to stay at $70. So why with you, it's a year and all that. I don't want to have to call you every year and beg for another promotion.
Please, sir, please give me a promotion. Please, I beg you.
So he said, well, call back and we'll discuss it. But right now I can't do anything about it because it's not due yet. So it was that was interesting. So if your bill is going up, do something similar. There's no reason to give them more than what they what they should expect to get. And I figured that I may be able to push them a little bit farther because the work that it took them to run the line to the house and get the contract to come and bury and all that is they probably don't want to lose their account after 1 year. So we'll see what they're going to do. I'll keep you posted. Another thing that came up with iMessage, and I don't choose iMessage, but Katie and Donna were here, and Donna is telling Kathy, "Didn't you get my text?" And Kathy picks up her phone, which is an Android, and she said, "I didn't get one." And then she picks up her iPad, and she said, "Oh, I got it on the iPad."
Uh-oh.
And we started discussing it, and Katie is pretty good at that. And apparently, if you have Android and an Apple, whether it's an iPad or whatever, and you send from an iPhone, it will default to go to another iMessage that it sees.
Correct.
So they tried it, and Kathy turned off the iPad, and sure enough, it went to the phone, I think. But it's very interesting, and it seems like we were talking some time ago about the fact that they're going to change it and open it up to everything. And there was some comments about they'll be crazy to do it because that's the thing that holds the Apple users together.
It's one of the things. Yeah.
Yeah. So then it was something about sending or receiving it from a device that has data that is actually cellular. So if your app, you can send from a device that has cellular, then it will go to the phone, to an Android. But if it's on Wi-Fi, it will only go to. I mean, they were talking about it. But it was interesting that it's still things are still not exactly compatible between the two, even though you can get the texts. I mean, you do get the text. What else we hit here? Now, here, Microsoft employees will be free to seek jobs at the likes of Google and Amazon after the internet giant announced it would no longer enforce non-compete clauses against the majority of its staff. The majority of its staff. The change is one of 4 updates announced in a blog post on Wednesday, including plans to ditch non-disclosure agreements, conduct a civil rights audit of its existing work policies, and commit to providing salary ranges on all internal and external job descriptions. No compete clause are used by firms to stop employees moving to companies considered to be direct competitors. While there's more understanding when they are included in the contracts of C-suite and senior manager, their use against lower level workers has been criticized as being too restrictive and holding people to unfair conditions, which makes sense. If you're going to work for a company and you are, you program in C, they can't say you can't go to another company. I mean, what if I'm not happy here? And that's my job. I program in C. I should be able to go to any other company that can use my services. If you're one of those that put computer together, you can go from one company to that. That's what you know how to do. They can't tell you, no, you can't work for 2 years because you did it for us. Now, high management and things like that have all kind of trade secrets, information like that, I can see. But that's very interesting. So Microsoft is going to let you, which is step in the right direction. Why are you shaking your head, Gal?
I wonder. I wonder how much it was enforced before. From the way I know the industry, I haven't heard of a single case of peers or something like that ever encountered. Not if they worked for Google, not if they worked for other large companies, Cisco, etc. I wonder how much of a thing it is. I know these non-compete. So here's where the news is they're probably removing the non-complete clause from the template contract.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
That's a step in the good direction. But that is the real thing. Are they removing it from the contract, or have they just stated to the world, we won't pursue them?
That's the point I was going to make, is that non-competes are only there are plenty of companies make you sign non-competes, but the question is, are they willing to enforce it? And if you leave on good terms with the company, a lot of times the answer is no. If you steal a trade secret or do something malicious, well, then yes, they probably will enforce it. And if for that case, I'm glad that they have that in their contracts, because a company should be allowed to protect that you go through a whole process with them and then go over to another company. And obviously, when you're talking about intellectual property and that's a different story. But if you are doing stuff and get caught and then jump ship, they should be able to enforce that. And I'm glad that they do.
So that's the thing, right? Is the news about non-compete clause being removed from contracts? That is number one. And I don't necessarily agree here with Nick. I think no company can own my mind. They can own ideas that they have the rights for, but they cannot own my mind. So removing the non-compete, I think that would be a step in the right direction to freedom of self, sort of, right? But it sounds to me more as if they say, listen, we're just not going to pursue that, which is already the norm. So that's why I find it.
Did you say you don't agree with Nick on
I don't agree that non-compete clauses should be part of the contract.
There should be something that allows a company A to
intellectual property still does that. But that has nothing to do with non-compete. Just because I was the person who developed the solution for company A Does that mean that if company B is going to treat me right, I cannot implement another solution for company B with what I've learned? Now,
no, and that's no, but typically
but
typically a non-compete is when you're typically talking about a non-compete, you're talking about a time. I mean, it's not a permanent.
I know.
There's no is a forever non-compete. It's normally with the 6 months, something like that a non-compete is in place.
Sometimes it's years, but
true.
But that's the thing, right? If what I'm good at is at doing this, right? Then I am a commodity, and my own interest, right, is to make the best out of it. So a company can work for profit, but I can't. See the problem?
No, not at all. I don't think it's got anything to do with the company working for profit. I think it's got everything to do with the idea that you are using.
Why should I be loyal? Let me ask this. Why should I be loyal to the company? Exactly.
Nobody's saying you should be. I'm the biggest proponent.
Means.
No, I don't. No, it's not. It's non-compete is, from my vantage point, non-compete is not. It's not forcing loyalty. I think it deals with a couple of things, including headhunting and all of that stuff. For example,
headhunting is about non-loyal.
No, I don't think it's. No, I disagree with you. I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of aspects to it. If you're going to go to a company and they invest $40,000 worth of training into you to get certifications and all of this stuff, and then you get your certifications and you say, hey, I'm out of here, I'm going to work for your competition across the street. I don't think that's fair for a company to have to eat that burden.
You're right, but that it also means that that company is probably doing something completely wrong anyway, and it has nothing to do with the employee itself.
Correct, no argument there. But we deal with this a little bit down here from and it's not a non-compete, but there's a big issue here with the Wilmington Police Department. Now, Wilmington is the largest city in southeastern North Carolina. You get outside of New Hanover County, you're getting into very rural communities, small police departments, things like that. And we've got a huge problem in the Wilmington Police Department right now, where officers come through, they do our basic law enforcement training, which estimates about $65,000, $70,000 that is spent to train these people, to get them all of their training. And then they work for the department for 6 or 8 months, and they dip out and go work at a smaller department where they can make more because it's a smaller department of 6 cops or 6 sheriff's officers, and take all of that training. I don't think that's fair. In this case, it's not fair to the taxpayers. It's not fair to the company. I think that. Now, I agree. If you have a shitty work environment because the company sucks, that I'm in complete agreement with. But a company is investing in you, and believe me, I am anything but a company man. Believe me, I think you owe no loyalty to your employer, because when push comes to shove, they will kick you out the door as quickly as possible. That's always the goal. But they also have something invested in you if they're paying for training and things like that, that they should be protected from. Because to them, it's still a cost.
Yeah, there's got to be middle ground somewhere.
Well, right, and there is a middle ground. I think there absolutely is a middle ground. And I think the middle ground of it is that unless you are leaving on really bad terms, or it's just a really bad company, you're typically not held to that non-compete.
Especially now, that's not you also, like they're talking about in the chat, if you get fired, it should be null and void.
No, it depends on what were you fired for. Were you during work hours, were you working part-time on a startup that is doing the same thing and got fired for it?
Okay.
Because if that's the case, then no, absolutely not.
All right. Yeah, that's true.
But again, and I'm not some company shill by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Of course. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Nick.
I was going to solve this non-compete issue for you guys if you'd like me to.
From a legal aspect?
Yes.
Please.
Absolutely enforceable if they're properly drawn. The big problem with non-competes is that they're not negotiated properly. For example, if I go to work for a company and they want me to sign a non-compete, if they're willing to pay me a year's salary not to go to work for another company for a year, I don't have any problem with that. The problem with non-competes is whenever the company tries to prevent you from earning a living whenever it does not negatively impact them. That's where these things get really, really ugly. Well, we don't think you ought to be able to work for our competitor. Well, why? I'm not exactly in a prime position here. I don't have any trade secrets. I'm not involved in development of a new product and so forth. So it's just not logical. So this thing, I think that Gall said a while ago, some of them are years long. I've never seen one that long, and in North Carolina, it would not be enforceable. They would laugh at it. They have to be limited in time and in scope. I mean, Nick is now a powerful, influential member of the media, so he knows the radio business. And a lot of radio stations in years gone by would say that no DJ can leave here and go to work for another radio station for 5 years. Well, if that's all you know how to do, then that means you have to go on welfare. So the government says, no, we're not going to let you do that because we're not going to let this person go on welfare just because you don't want them to go to work for another radio station. So that wouldn't be enforceable. And even in the radio business, a lot of non-competes for a radius of even 50 miles have been thrown out. And that is, if it's too far for you to drive in a day's time without having to buy a new house or move into a new apartment, they're generally not going to be enforceable. And there has to be separate consideration for it. And that is, you go to work for Amnon making, say, $350,000 a year, and he wants you to sign a non-compete, and you'd say, okay, how much is it worth for you? So, well, that'd be worth an additional $75,000 a year. Okay, that's reasonable to me. You've got the freedom to sell your time that way if you choose to do so. That's not a problem with a non-compete agreement.
Okay.
The abuse of non-competes is where we all agree.
Alan in the chat is saying non-compete clauses affect workers of fast food chains moving across town to another franchisee's store. What can you take with you?
Doesn't matter what you can take with you. That's part of it. And again, like Mike was saying, if that was your term of employment, as stupid as that may sound, it's still your term of employment.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, I understand that. But I mean, what?
Well, and I would say, and I don't, again, I've never heard that in the fast food industry, but if I had to guess as to why that was the case, I would say it's probably got something to do with, and in the fast food, it's not necessarily headhunting, but something similar to that.
Well, and if that case were to go before a judge, the proper judge is going to say, all right, demonstrate for me what trade secrets or what internal operations information this minimum wage or $15 an hour employee has that would be injurious to your company if this person goes to work for your competitor.
Right.
And if they can't demonstrate it, it's not going to be upheld, at least in North Carolina, which is the law, I know. These things have been abused, have attempted to be abused for years and years and years. And again, I think that we would all agree that the abuse is unacceptable, and they are very much abused, but they're abused by people who are either A, not knowledgeable in how these things work, or B, they are radio people who don't give a crap about others anyway, and they'll do whatever they want to do. Nick understands that comment.
Amen.
So
what was the article? What was the original article again, Amnon? This was about Microsoft removing that, correct?
Yeah. Microsoft employees will be free to seek jobs at the likes of Google and Amazon.
Now, let me ask you this, Mike. In your experience, if you typically leave on pretty good terms, most employers won't go after that non-compete.
Not true. It depends on the reason for the non-compete. Say, for example, as an attorney, if I leave company A to go to company B, and if I were stupid enough to sign a non-compete, it would be unenforceable. You cannot prevent, an attorney by law cannot be prevented from practicing law by a private party. I mean, obviously the state bar can take their license. I'm not talking about that, but it cannot be restricted. And even with doctors, you can get a small amount of radius of distance that they can't practice, but it just generally is considered against public interest for a doctor not to be able to be a doctor.
Hmm.
So, in my opinion, which Microsoft, who never, well, I don't like Microsoft, but probably the motivation for this is they're having trouble getting employees who are saying, no, I'm not going to sign your non-compete because this is a vibrant economy. The technology is growing by leaps and bounds. I'm willing to protect whatever it is that you need to protect. I'm willing to sign an agreement that I will not steal your technology. But no, I'm not going to sign a non-compete. I'm too much in demand unless you're willing to pay me 2 years salary, which I'm not.
Now, hold on a second, though. Stealing their intellectual property, you don't have to sign an agreement for that. I mean, isn't that's just bog standard?
No, but when you're trying to do a peaceful departure where they're not going to throw lawyers at you and you're not going to threaten them with things, then it's and I don't mean you have to enter into an agreement to make it legal or enforceable. I'm just saying that you make it as, look, I'm aware that the ABC 123 technology is proprietary. I am aware that we here at Microsoft are pioneering it, but you also need to be aware that there are other companies that are likewise developing it, and some of them may even be farther along than we are and are not talking about it. So if that's your forte and that's what you've done and that's what you've developed, does it make sense, like Gall was saying, for you to sell your brain on that? It depends. I mean, I have a price tag. If somebody wants me to pay me to sit at home and mind my own business for the next 3 years, I'll give them a number. If they write me a check, that's exactly what I'm going to do. In the technology business, that's not always such a great idea, because if somebody pays you to sit at home for 2 years, you're going to be 2 years behind in technology by the time you get back into the job market. So it's not just your salary, it's compensation for whatever knowledge that you would have gained being involved in a design organization for that period of time.
Mm.
It's complicated, and the point being that we are all, it's just like welfare. We get accused of being haters because we are opposed to welfare, when in fact we're opposed to welfare abuse. And I don't know anybody who's not opposed to welfare abuse, because that takes it away from people who genuinely need it. So it's the same thing with a non-compete. If you don't negotiate it properly, if you don't put the proper price tag on it, if you don't understand it, then these things can be absolutely horrible. And the horror stories out there for these things are very numerous. But in most cases, it's because someone who's working a $50,000 a year job doesn't want to go spend $25,000 arguing over a non-compete. So they just suck it up and move on and try to do better next time.
Yeah. Oh, and that's a big part of it too, is especially with a company like Microsoft, who's got an indispensable amount of money for lawyers and legal fees. How much of a fight can you put up?
Should Howard Stern have a non-compete?
Should he? Assuming
absolutely. He's an employee, not that he owns his own
company. Yeah, and he did have non-competes.
Okay. Why? Because he was willing to give them what they wanted based on a certain price tag that he quoted. They said, we'll meet that price. And he said, okay, we got a deal.
Another great example of a non-compete is Anthony Cumia from the Opie and Anthony show. When they were in Boston, he was off the air in New York, when they got fired from CBS Radio before they went to Sirius XM. It was a year where they were off the air.
I guarantee they paid him for that year.
Oh, he made out handsomely for that year. But he was pissed because he was off the air for a year.
Whose fault is it?
It's nobody's fault.
No, it is somebody's fault.
Well, it's his.
He agreed to it.
No, he agreed to it. But believe me, he's not complaining about the paycheck. And then after that year, they signed that deal with Sirius XM and did their show for over a decade there.
Yeah. So I mean, again, where people falsely unfairly blame non-competes, and that's even with an asterisk beside it. It's because whenever they want this job, I mean, the most they've ever made is $50,000 a year. They're offered $100,000 a year job. They're willing to sign anything or do anything to get that job, and so they very quickly read over that non-compete because I mean, this is the most wonderful job in the world. Who would ever walk away from $100,000 a year job? It's wonderful. Life is good. I saw it all the time in the music business. Whenever artists were being approached by record labels of the day, and they would say, "Here's our artist contract. If we're going to get behind you or your band and promote you and make you a success, here's how all this works." And I'll never forget, I was actually negotiating a contract for an artist out of India, and I read the contract, and I mean, probably a third of it was just pure garbage. After I read it, I advised them on what I thought they should or shouldn't do. They went back to the record company. They might have negotiated one or two little things, and then they signed the contract. Uh, I have no idea what ultimately happened, except to say that I'm not familiar with it. That artist is now world famous or anything, and uh, anything that goes wrong, the artist had to pay for it. Any of the funds accrued by the record company, any expenses had to be paid by the artist. It was virtuous, typical contract from a record company. But again, this person wanted to be famous, so she and her husband signed the contract.
All right. Okay. What else is going on, Mike?
Oh, just getting over COVID.
Oh, you too.
Yeah. I don't believe it was COVID. I believe it was the flu. I believe all these flu tests, COVID test positive for COVID because I've been sicker than this and for a longer period of time, 10 years ago. I had a week that I didn't remember anything. Now I can at least remember what happened over the last 10 days. Just not very prominent in my mind.
Well, glad to see that you're okay, though.
Yeah.
Either way.
I'm back to my normal 40%.
Oh, jeez. All right. Let me ask this. Any of you guys following what's going on with Twitter and Elon Musk?
Sort of.
So what's going on?
Well, that's the $1 million question, is what exactly is going on? I'm not sure we know.
Okay, because this article here says that Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton said Monday he's investigating Twitter over its reporting of how many accounts on the platform are from bots and fake users, saying the company may be misrepresenting the number to inflate the value and raise its revenue.
Would Twitter do a thing like that?
That's been the problem. That's been, and a lot of folks have had the idea and the thought that from the start, this was Elon's game plan. You can like or hate Elon Musk. I've got some problems with his business strategies, but he's not a stupid guy. A lot of people believe, and I've kind of come to the conclusion that this was his goal all along, was either to buy Twitter at a incredibly discounted price or essentially destroy the company. And one of those two things is going to happen. Because if it comes out that 70% of their users are bots or something, which I would not be surprised to find out, their ad market is going to become non-existent.
Yep.
And it's already non-existent. It's already an incredibly tough market. That's why I go back to this. The only reason Twitter is even for sale right now is because of that. You can't buy Facebook. Why? Because Facebook has an incredibly profitable ad market that they are building their company on. Twitter does not have. That's why they're even contemplating the idea of selling.
Why do you say that? Because I don't use Twitter anymore, but sometimes I will have a political thing that I'll need to look up, and you go there, and every third Twitter post is an ad. So why do you say they don't have a viable ad program?
Because they don't make any money on it.
Then why are they making us look at it if they're not making any money on it?
That's the $1 million question.
No, to make you think that they do.
Well, no, not to make you think that. Let's be clear. It's not that Twitter is not scraping two nickels together to try and make a server payment. I mean, we're talking about a company that is still very successful, but in comparison to what Facebook and Google and some of these other services have done, Twitter has been unable to capitalize on the ad market. And I don't know why. I suspect, in my opinion, the reason they've been unable to capitalize on it is because they're not the advertisers are not getting an ROI because nobody's using the platform. Is a whole bunch of bots. Facebook is a lot of people. Like, I mean, I just refreshed my Facebook feed and I'm watching an ad from 5 Minute Crafts, which is suggested for me for whatever the hell reason. And there's a Toyota Tundra ad in the middle of it. People are clicking on that stuff. That's the reason Facebook's making money. I think the problem, Mike, is that nobody's clicking on the stuff on Twitter.
All right. Well, let me ask you a question though, and I'm because if I don't know the absolute answer, then probably some others don't either. What is the effect if I were a regular Twitter user reading the threads and so forth? What is the effect of the bots? Now, the reason I ask is because from a comment point, there are bots that can read political posts and provide alternate responses to them, as if some jackass is sitting there replying to some Twitter like Trump has done a great job, and the next 500 posts are Orange Man bad. And I get that bots can do that, but I think it's got to be more than that. What are the bots? What are the effects of the bots to the average user?
I don't think to me it's not the effect to the average user, it's the effect to Twitter. If you have an account that is a bot, and there's plenty of, you look at any tweet from a verified account that comes out, and immediately you'll see a whole bunch of tweets with hashtags and stuff like that. They're bots that when a new user tweets, spit this out. That's incredibly common on Twitter. It happens in the political sphere. You can look at Elon Musk's tweets. It's the same thing. The problem with that is if you're an advertiser selling pizza, for example, and you want to get people to show up to your pizzeria, you're running a special. You're paying, and the Twitter ad market is very similar to Facebook's ad market, in which you pay for two different things, similar to Google's as well. You pay for both impressions and clicks. Impressions, of course, are people that see it on their timeline, which you mentioned, Mike. Every third tweet is an ad for something, and you pay for that. But then you're also paying for engagement, clicks, favorites, follows, whatever it might be. A bot account, while it might not even see the tweet if it's truly just a bot account, it's sure as hell not going to click on it because it's not a real user. So you might get a whole bunch of eyeballs, quote unquote, on your ad for your pizza place, but nobody's showing up. And why might that be? Because people that are getting served the ad are not actual users. That's a huge problem. It makes your ad market, there's no ROI. Why would you spend your money on Twitter? You're getting a bunch of views, but nobody's clicking on it. Nobody's showing up to buy your pizza.
Yeah, I get that. But
the difference with Facebook is people do click the ads. People share the ads.
They got bots there too, though. They're just probably fewer.
Well, and I think that's exactly what it is. Twitter is or Facebook is a different kind of medium than Twitter is.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of bots on Facebook too, but it's a different medium. And the Facebook ad market is incredible. We've recently done some political ads here for the local county GOP. We have had incredible success with these ads
On Facebook.
On Facebook. And we sold. We had a $100,000 fundraiser that we profited on because we sold the tickets on Facebook. Very successful. So we're absolutely going to go back and do that again. I didn't even contemplate doing it on Twitter.
Well, here's the thing that I see with Twitter is that if this bot problem is as bad, and by the way, you can assign whatever thought process you want to Elon Musk, but anytime you're going to spend $44 billion, there's going to be a large amount of due diligence that you're going to go through to ensure that you're getting $44 billion worth of value. That's just purchasing 101. So what he's doing
like with Amazon that you just click.
Yeah, just click. That's all it is. So anyway,
buy now. Don't even add it to my cart. Just buy it right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to do that. So he's absolutely within his rights to do it. But here's what I'm going to offer on this, and I have to go. But if in fact this thing is, what's the last number you heard as far as bots? 40%, 70%?
Twitter claims less than 5. Elon Musk has claimed upwards of 7.
7?
The number 70.
70. That's what I thought I had heard. It was over 50.
Let's just say it's 30 or 40, which
say it's 20. And in my opinion, if those, well, let me ask one question before I make this comment. If those bots are there, who put them there?
But I think there's another thing to note, and I mentioned this a couple of weeks back. Inherently, a bot is not inherently bad. For example, if you are a weather person or follow politics, Mike, you know the NCPOL hashtag. There's plenty of quote unquote bot accounts in there that just automatically publish when a new bill has been done by the General Assembly. That's not a malicious bot. It's not spamming Twitter, at least inherently. It's not doing ill intent. It's not trying to scam people, but it is still a bot. Meaning it is an active user, but it is not a user. And there are millions of accounts that do things like that. They relay things from the weather service has got relay bots that relay storm information. No users are dealing with that account. It's a bot.
All right. So let's pretend like we're Twitter for the moment and we want to play fairly, which I know it's a stretch, but let's just assume that's the case. So we would have within our ability to create technology that prevents those bots from being countered in the eyeballs impressions on ads. And then we would not be doing anything wrong.
Correct. And I think that's the question. When Twitter says we have X amount of active users, what does that mean? Is that an account that is tweeting? Because if that is the case, then Elon Musk is probably right. There are so many people that just use Twitter to read. And when you look at the active user count, their bot traffic could very well be 50 or 60% of that traffic. Not meaning it's all spam, not meaning it's all malicious, but it's a bot.
I would argue that if you take, I forget the name of what this really big tool is that you can use with Twitter to schedule.
Those are all gone. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No. One of the ones.
Hootsuite.
Hootsuite, yeah. That's the big one that are done, quote unquote, legitimately, that Computers 2K Now wants to get its message out once an hour on Twitter. So it manually creates these tweets and schedules them for once an hour. As far as I'm concerned, that's a bot at the moment that it's not being activated by a person pressing a button.
The real question is, do you do anything else with that account? And that's the $1 million question. Yeah. If you, like, for example, Slick Deals, which we talked about this morning, they have a Twitter account that automatically sends out alerts, but they also interact on that Twitter account. They tweet at people, people tweet at them, they respond. There is a bot element of that account, but it's also actively being used by somebody. One of the Twitter accounts I follow for I don't follow them, but they're always in my feed for North Carolina politics, doesn't do that. It is simply an aggregate of new bills that are filed in the North Carolina General Assembly. There's no interaction. They don't follow anybody. They don't like tweets. It doesn't do anything but tweet out when things are scheduled within the General Assembly. That's it. Plain and simple.
State Board of Elections does that.
Yeah. And there's inherently nothing wrong with that. It's good to get that information.
But the big problem that I have with Twitter and these other ones is this verified program where they give special treatment to bigger names, and they say, so you'll know that it really is whomever, it really is Johnny Depp who's doing the post. Well, that's bull crap. They do that because their algorithms give preferential treatment to these higher profile people so that readers are interested in reading what's being done. So that's crap. And so I just don't care anything about a caste system that puts certain people on top of others like that. So they can have it.
Yeah. So, answer your question, Amnon, what do we know? Nothing.
But let me finish this. And I meant to say this and I get off on a mental tangent here. But if they would designate, what I'm saying is they can designate accounts as being verified. They're already creating classifications of accounts. So if they would then classify these bot accounts as bots so that they didn't count or didn't fool you or didn't make you think you were interacting with Johnny Depp, then I think that they would have a much better argument. But they have had no incentive to do that, and they appear to be not being truthful about it.
Yeah. So then let's say they cut their active user base by 30% if they count those bots. Well, now you're talking about your, $45 billion maybe going down to $25 billion.
Of course.
And now Twitter doesn't want that.
Yep.
But I agree. They can absolutely look at, the activity on these accounts and see if it's legitimate or not. But I don't think they want to.
No, they don't. I mean, they'd rather ban
it's not necessarily a bad thing.
They would rather ban my wife's account, who, I mean, I'm sure she's a threat to society with her Twitter account. I mean, boy, that's really going to change the world.
Yeah. And I have to continue to beat this home. Bots are not inherently bad.
Yep. Nor are non-disclosure. Non-compete agreement.
Yeah. There you go. Bring it all full circle.
All right.
All right, Mike. Thanks.
All right. I'll see you guys. Have a
See you, Mike. Thanks.
Right, take care. Say hi.
I will do. You too.
So now we wait.
Yeah. And listen to this. A recent executive brief from data storage industry analyst firm Trend Focus reports that OEMs have disclosed that Microsoft is pushing them to drop HDDs as the primary storage device in pre-built Windows 11 PCs and use SSDs instead, with a current deadline for the switch over set to 2023. That comes from Tom's Hardware. Interestingly, these actions from Microsoft come without any firm SSD requirement listed for Windows 11 PCs. And OEM have pushed back on the deadline. Microsoft's most current list of hardware requirement for a 64 gigabyte or larger storage device for Windows 11, so an SSD isn't a minimum requirement for a standard install. However, Microsoft stipulates that two features, direct storage and the Windows subsystem for Android, require an SSD, but you don't have to use those features. It is unclear whether or not Microsoft plans to change the minimum specifications for Windows 11 PCs after the 2023 switch over to SSD for pre-built systems. So, I mean, maybe that's why we see a lot of 256s on machines. I mean, 256 today is nothing.
You don't need more.
Yeah.
Well, no, but
no.
Well, again, I think it goes like, for example, that one special computer that had 64 gigabytes of eMMC. It depends on what you're doing. If you're if you're using all of your stuff web-based and you're just using it for watching YouTube videos and browsing the internet, I mean, 32 gigabytes is enough. You're not. I mean, these Chromebooks don't have any storage either. There's no reason to.
Understood. But
how much do you have here on your phone?
128 gigs.
That's enough.
Yeah, but no. But the thing is, I mean, when
this case, I store a lot more on my phone than I do on my laptop. I got pictures and all this other crap. Yeah.
Most users, if you're editing video, you need something else. But most people, I'm with Nick. 32 gigabytes is enough.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is talking about all pre-built computers.
Right.
That includes laptops, desktops, servers.
They're not telling them take out the physical drive.
Yeah, they are.
They're saying always boot from an SSD. That doesn't mean don't ship it with a physical drive. Make sure the OS is on an SSD. And that makes total sense.
Yeah, as the
in
primary.
Today's technology, it makes total sense.
Yeah, as the primary. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's true. True. I stand corrected.
I do see one problem. I have yet to be convinced that Windows specifically is optimized for SSD, because SSD requires SSD, NVMe, any solid memory solution has a very limited write count, right? Compared to magnetic data. And an OS drive, right, involves swap, which is very, very write intensive, and temporary folders, which are also very, very write intensive. And I am yet to be convinced that these can survive longevity compared to a physical drive. So until the mandate says you will also need to supply, I don't know, another 60 gigabytes of RAM as a scratch surface and a 32 gigabyte SSD solution as the OS loading solution, that is the only time where it will start to make sense. And this is still very, very expensive. So swap and temporary, all of these, they need to go into a RAM drive in order to make sure the SSD booting the OS, right, is long lived. And I think that is where the pushback from manufacturer would come. The cost and effectiveness of it, right? In order to only be SSD, it's something that the consumer will need to be educated about, because yes, they're getting a faster system, but the cost is jumping very, very substantially. Not because SSDs are so expensive today, but because their life is substantially lower. And if you've never experienced data loss with a physical drive, there's a good chance you will experience data loss if you're only working from SSD. So that is where the pushback, at least that's my technological pushback from this, right? Always pair it with a physical drive.
Yeah, that will make sense. And as far as the longevity, I think we had a report one time that we were talking about this, and they were saying that it's going to take years and years to go over the the rights and erasing and writing and all that on an SSD today. In the early days, it was a lot less. Today,
first of all, it still happens on USB drives, right?
Yeah,
you still get them die because the quality of the chips are lower, and that's fine. But there is one thing that Microsoft was supposed to deliver, right, about 10 to 15 years ago and have yet to, and that is a different file system. One that is optimized for SSD, right? And that hasn't happened yet. And technology today exists. There are file systems. They're not enough, by the way, right? I keep on talking about ZFS. ZFS is one of those solutions. When you have copy on write, you are spreading the write on the surface of the drive a lot more efficiently, and SSDs will live longer in that situation. So stuff like that. Things are evolving, but they're not yet there. So.
All right. It's that time of day. Anything you want to add, Gal? Nick, anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
Check out the new and improved nickcraig.com.
nickcraig.com. Okay.
New and improved.
Gal?
Nothing on my end. We wanted to talk about some vulnerability that was discovered, but we can table that for next week.
Yeah.
Nothing critical, nothing important.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Nick. Gal. And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie and Dana, Dina, Arlington, Micha, Eleanor, Sarid, Yaakov, Yael. Thanks, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing, back up your hard drive, and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. And remember, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m., Nick is on Wilmington's 980 The Wave and 107.9 FM. You can tell your Echo device to play 980 The Wave anywhere you are. Recordings, you can go to the new and improved nickcraig.com. And Tuesday, 7 p.m., Nick and Brian do the Infection podcast. That's survival games and game news on Twitch. So it's 7 p.m. if you're into gaming. Twitch.tv/Infection Podcast. See you next week.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.